Smash that limiter!
So, welcome, everybody. This is episode 13. A Humvee's reliable. Kel.
No.
Finally,
just
episode 13, the
No.
doom number. Humvee's
No,
reliable.
absolutely not.
yeah. So, just a quick little introduction. Kel, can you introduce yourself? Who you are, what you do, history, all that sort of stuff. Also, we're going to have all your deets in the description when it's uploaded to YouTube as well, because you do have a Twitch that you go on every now and then. So,
Yeah, once every blue moon. I just realized it'd be a good idea if I opened Twitch so I could actually see the chat. We're very professional here. We're very prepared.
Yeah,
We're professionals.
Look, like I've had like a max of 2 hours sleep. I did not sleep last night at all. I just couldn't sleep, so I am very, very tired.
Yeah, no sleep crew.
Yeah, yeah.
Imagine sleeping.
I know.
Yeah, I know. What even is that?
Yeah. Imagine just closing your eyes and then just disappearing into nothingness. Because that's pretty much what you do when you sleep, isn't it? You know?
Pretty much. Like, bed is the teleporter to breakfast.
It is. It really is.
That's true. Though in my case, it's oftentimes a teleporter to lunch because I end up sleeping half through the day.
All right.
I fucking wish I could do that. I used to be able to when I was
Such are the
doing night
joys
shifts.
of being self-employed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I was supposed to explain myself.
Yeah.
Wait, that's a weird way to describe that. Explain myself. I didn't do it, I swear.
I played the
It
fifth.
wasn't me. I played the fifth, it wasn't me. Yeah, I'm Kelt. Brain died.
All right.
Shit, where was I going with that?
Okay, so you're Kel. Your profession.
There we go. I am a gunsmith.
Does
based
Kel
out of Missouri.
does Kel have any like videos or anything like that can show up? You don't have any shorts, do you?
I don't think I do.
Okay, never mind then.
I think I have some clips on Twitch.
Yeah, because normally if like Ray's done a shout out, normally it would show you like a clip of you or something like that.
Yeah, they might be old. Wait, no, because there are definitely some clips that I have that are from like 2015 or something ancient. So, yeah, no, there should be clips of me.
Can you? Hey Ray, is it? No, you don't have the clip player. God damn it! It's another fucking thing I got to set up. Anyway, all right. So that is Kelt's deets in the chat there. So you're from Missouri.
Well, I'm from Florida, but I'm currently based out of Missouri.
Yeah. Which I have to believe that is the best state in America.
I would tend to agree with you. My heart is in Florida and Alabama, but God, Missouri is just such a good state.
You know, you guys don't get. You guys have like no tax laws as well. Like you don't get taxes heavily. You have legalized marijuana, and
we do have a state
laws.
Tax, but the state tax isn't bad. Florida's the one that's really good about taxes because there is no state income tax in Florida.
Oh, that's
all of Florida's essentially the revenue that Florida makes in replacement of the income tax is sales tax from tourism. But
that's clever.
No,
that
over
is
here
smart.
there is
an
income tax, but it's not bad. I haven't seen a major change in the money that I get in, and now that I'm self-employed, you know, that becomes even less of an issue because all I have to do is just make sure to pay my taxes. It's not just immediately stolen out of my income.
Oh yeah,
that's it. So you say you're self-employed. What is a job that you do? Like, what is your role?
Gunsmith. I'm a gunsmith. I do gunsmithing. Though
you tinker with the explosive barrels.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Fun fact about that: I did have to. There was a guy who brought a rifle in at one point. It was just a 22, but you know, still, he brought a rifle in at one point that had a a live round stuck in the chamber,
Ooh.
and he asked me to get it out of it.
No, that's a normal
Uh,
practice for a
so-
gunsmith. So
Yeah, that was a well. Usually it's a stuck casing, not a stuck round. So yeah, I was sat there and I was essentially playing with a bullet that could be a hang fire, it could just be a light strike, it could be
Yeah.
a lot of things. And I had to go in front of the barrel, put a rod down it, and then pop the bullet out. And then I immediately tossed it out into the woods.
you know,
Yeah, fair enough.
you know, I was thinking that if you put, say, a heavy duty rod or something like that in front of a 22 projectile, would the 22 projectile have enough force to actually push the rod out like crazy? Because 22's like it doesn't take much for a 22 round to like basically stopped.
It depends on the round.
Yeah,
If the 22 has a shitload of powder behind it,
like a yellow jacket.
then it could probably push it out. Because I mean, think about it. You're probably not fitting a very large or heavy rod down the
Yeah.
barrel. But yeah, it could more than likely, push the round out. But if you're
Yeah.
talking about like a lower pressure load for 22s,
Like a subsonic.
then yeah, like a subsonic or a quiet 22, then more than likely not. And if you're going with a Bubba's hand load 22s, which can either be extremely hot or extremely weak, you either have a scenario where the bullet wasn't going to make it out of the barrel anyways, which is what is known as a squib, or it will just explode the barrel because
Why-
actually it probably won't explode the barrel.
Why is it called?
I don't think 22 has enough. What?
Why is it called the same name you call a magic person that can't do magic? That's
Y'all call
what.
those folks squibs? For us, a
Yeah.
squib is just any.
No, a
The
squib.
only other squib that I know of is like a little movie magic thing where you have like a little thing that explodes under someone's shirt that's supposed to make it look like you got shot by a gun.
Oh yeah, yeah. No,
Oh,
a
okay.
squib in the Harry Potter universe is the term that is used on a wizard or witch who doesn't have magical powers. So, Filch, the groundskeeper, he's a squib. He is magically born, but he has no magic. He's useless.
See, I don't know
Yeah.
jack diddly about Harry Potter. I was not allowed to, watch that stuff.
Was it heathen stuff? Was it?
Heathen.
Yeah, it was back. That was back when I was still with my parents and they made the rules and whatnot.
Yeah.
And my mother being very, very devoutly Christian, makes me look bad kind of Christian.
Don't worry.
She was always like, that is witchcraft, you're not allowed to watch it. And then later on, I had the option of reading Harry Potter as part of like a class assignment or something like that. I don't remember.
Yeah.
And she was like, or actually, would that have been about? Yeah, no, it would have been about that time. Though that might have been before the movies. I can't remember. Eons ago. But I had the option of reading the book for like a class assignment or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was allowed to read Harry Potter, but I wasn't allowed to watch Harry Potter.
That's probably a good thing because, to be honest, the books are way better than the movies.
Yeah, I would have assumed
Yeah, but
that.
I didn't read the books either. I'm dyslexic.
No.
That's why I listen. Like, I've read the books, but I also listen to them again in Audible, and I love the Audible versions because they get the actor. You know the actor that was in V for Vendetta that played the gay guy that had like the Quran and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
No.
He read it, and fuck, he is good at telling a story because he like puts the voices on. Like when he talks about Hermione and what she's saying, he puts Hermione's voice on. Like, it was such a good fucking. I loved it. It was so awesome.
I can only think of one audiobook that I've listened to.
Yeah.
And that was, oh god, what was that book called? It was some sci-fi book a la Star Trek or Star Wars.
Yeah.
Uh,
Star Wars are good.
and it was only the first one that I had listened to, and I was listening to it because a coworker of mine
Yeah.
listened to these, and he was like, have you read these books?" And I was like, "No, I don't read." And he was like, "Yeah, but audiobooks." And I was like, "Yeah, but who cares?" And he was like, "No, no, no. Anytime we're out here for like 2 months, we're gonna be listening to these when we're on the road, which is the majority of the time because we're
Yeah.
doing a LiDAR job." So we were listening to this audiobook, and the entire time I was enthralled with the book because it was all sci-fi and Star Warsy, but it wasn't like, so you know how like the warfare in like Star Trek or Star Wars is still very fictional. Like
Yeah.
Star Trek gets it a little more realistic, but it's still very fictional. Like
Yeah.
it isn't true military anything. They don't capture the idea of the military or the culture of the military. This book, like genuinely, it felt like it was written by a veteran and then just put into a sci-fi universe.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
they were talking about how the lieutenant is worthless. Their company commander was just also worthless and was like a nepotism hire essentially.
All right.
So it's not essentially like a general's baby, like a general's kid kind of thing. And how all of the people had more faith in their platoon sergeant than anything else, or than any of the officers. All that kind of jazz. They were talking about how the people that they were having to escort were uh, absolutely brain dead and yada yada yada. It even displayed like some of the major pitfalls of the military, such as when the whole scenario was said and done, they pulled an entire mutiny, and uh, their platoon sergeant, I want to say, took over the squad from the company commander and the lieutenant. Uh, and he completed the mission despite the officers. Uh, and they completed it through absolute hell, lost a lot of people. Uh, and they only really survived because they made it to an advantageous position and held for long enough. Uh, and then when all is said and done, the officer that essentially was crying in the back ended up getting pinned with a medal. Everyone else was just, you know, cast aside. They didn't. Who cares about them? They're just infantry. And God, it was like everything that's all too real with the military. And the entire time I was listening, I was like, "Oh my God, this guy understands."
It sounds like Stargate or
Yeah, it sounds something like that, doesn't it?
yeah, because it sounds far too military to be Star Trek, and it sounds too realistic to be Star Wars.
Yeah, but like it. I'm not saying it was those, but it was in the same general genre as those, where it was like it the story played out, especially in later books. I didn't like the later books so much because it started to lean more into its inspiration roots of Star Wars and Star Trek. It started becoming, overall, it was sort of a space opera, but the first book was more like a very isolated story of a very specific incident, and then all of the later books are like one long through story of each book. Uh, and the main character of those was actually the guy who took charge in the first book, that everyone looked up to, but out of the military because he realized that, you know, the military was worthless and they weren't treating him right.
So, Kelt, can you tell us a bit of a change of subject on the Audible book?
Yeah.
Because it sounds interesting. Your first car, first driving experience, how you learned to drive, all that sort of stuff. Like, fill us that in, and then just share some like crazy stories that happened, like involving a car, particularly a Humvee, because we want to know a little bit more about like why they're so unreliable, like what was like common things as well that would go wrong. So to structure it for you, start off with like how you learned to drive. Like was it your dad or your mom that taught you to drive, or was it siblings or friends? And then like
Automatic, manual.
Yeah, well, in your case it would be automatic or stick. And then go into like what was your first car you owned, like what's your favorite car, and then go into the Humvee stuff and all the military sort of stuff that you have experienced. Which, for those that don't know, Kelt has served, and yes, he's got some stories, like general stories and stuff like that he's willing to share.
I want to say 16 years, but I was only ever really like deployed until 2012, and then essentially I was stuck at home for the rest of the time because we never got deployed again. And then the unit got
in fairness, though, the way I look at served, it's when you're employed by the military, whether you're deployed or not, because like you can still serve and be a National Guard, or you could be
which
an
I'm
MP.
actually considering doing.
Military police,
yeah. So that's serving. Like you're serving your country, you're serving the services.
It just didn't feel like serving because I was sitting around doing a whole lot of nothing.
Well, that's
playing with bureaucracy and not much else.
That's what that's what an Agi does over here. Agis are basically airport security. They're like the so you got like your security guards for your military bases on air bases and whatnot. Agis are basically the guys that have the big guns that walk around with the dogs. They're they just walk around and do nothing. But you also don't want to fuck with them because they're bored, so they love any excuse to throw down.
That's most MPs. But anyways, my mother and father first started teaching me to drive before I could actually, this was when I was like 15 and I just got my driver's permit. They would take me out to the college parking lot so I could learn to drive, and they would have me drive up and down the college parking lot and whatnot. My mother was a lot easier to drive with because she had a car. It was a Z28, I want to say is the term, a Camaro.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, it was a really, really nice car. She was always proud of it, even though her color choice was ugh. Her color choice for a Camaro was white, like the body it being white. And specifically a camel brown. That is the exact color that she would always look for. Camel brown. What's the term for the roofs that close?
Convertible roof?
Convertible, that's it. Camel brown convertible roof.
Okay, that is kind of gross.
Yeah, it was a disgusting color choice. But God, she loved that car, and then she got a soccer mobile, and I have always been like, why would you do this? Even with the gross color choice, your car was so cool.
That is
but
cool.
my dad was a lot harder to drive with because me being a little 15-year-old kid, he had always driven those really big GMC trucks.
Oh, right. Yeah.
They're the ones with like
They're always
six. They're the ones with like the 6 headlights, aren't they?
No. It's it looks like any other truck. It's just very tall.
Looks like a Ford F-250 in comparative size, I suppose.
Yeah, it was a GMC Sierra is usually what he drove.
So it's like one of these things, but obviously these are the new ones.
Yeah, which he still drives a GMC Sierra. Now he drives them white. He used to always have a black GMC Sierra. Though I want to say at the start, if I remember correctly, it was a red one, like a deep crimson red. Which,
right.
I feel like I remember that being the case because he was a Crimson Tide fan, and we always joked about it. So yeah, that was the case. His first one was a crimson red. But yeah. Anyways, so he had always driven a big old truck. Usually a really nice one because he always went with a Denali. And learning to drive in that one, I was always horrified because my mom's was always a struggle because it was a Camaro, a Z28 Camaro, very powerful car.
Yeah.
So it was always a struggle trying to keep it from going meow. But
yeah, right.
my dad's was always a struggle of trying to see what I was even looking at.
Yeah, that's always a problem. You get in the driver's seat and you think, oh shit, where's the road? Somewhere past the bonnet.
It was
That's
like, where is the front at? What is in front of me?
Yeah.
That's why I love to drive trucks and full drives and stuff like that, because you have so much better visibility. Because you sit up a lot taller, so you can see the bonnet and all that sort of stuff. But these modern hatchbacks, man, you can't see shit. Like it's just a guessing game. If they didn't put cameras and fucking sensors on the front, backs, and sides, like you would have no fucking idea where you are. No wonder why people keep crashing them.
I absolutely adore my my Nissan Frontier because it has all of the capacity of like my dad's big truck or the big old work trucks.
By the way,
but the hood
that's a
dips
Navara.
down and you can see it a lot better.
Oh, right.
Yeah, a Frontier is a Navara.
Oh, okay. Well, you guys basically drive the same car then.
Yeah, they are.
No wonder you guys get along so well.
Yeah. So, Kel,
It's such a good truck.
You have any issues? You can use my content for help.
Yeah, it is a 2012 and it has no bells and whistles, which is honestly a good thing because now we're gonna get into my first car, which was a piece of shit, but I loved it. It was a 94 94 or 95 94 I think Acura Legend, which is also my favorite car, so that's one of the reasons I loved it. And the person that we bought it from was some dude living in a ghetto in Crestview, back in Florida, and
that is a nice looking car.
It's gonna sound messed up, but it was just the thing of the time. Like it's a product of the era that it's from. The joke, at least, about it. We would joke. I see why you had to, because the engine didn't work. We had to completely replace the engine.
Oh wow!
And a friend of mine was like, or a friend of mine's dad was like, "Yeah, you had to replace the engine because it was probably full of purple Kool-Aid." And I was like, "You can't say that. That's not okay." Like this is at the turning point of when that started being not okay. And I was like, that's not okay.
It kind of looks like
it was really funny,
Camry,
but
doesn't it?
like
a cross between
a black one.
Yeah, it's like
I had a black one.
It's like that one.
I just pointed at my screen like I would be able to tell you where
it looks like.
It looks like a cross.
It looks like an R34's more financially responsible cousin.
No, I reckon it's a cross between like a Zafiro and a Camry, like a 1990s Camry. That's what it looks like to me. It's like a mixture between a Nissan and a Toyota. Kind of a nice looking car.
They were so nice. They were essentially a luxury town car, but a very affordable luxury town car, which is what made them so great.
Yeah.
Plus, and I'm going to be honest, the reason I like it has nothing to do with anything about the car other than the fact that it says Legend of the back, and I got a custom license plate that said of Zelda.
Really?
Oh,
so me being a massive nerd, the back of my car always said Legend of Zelda.
You should have.
That's great.
If I was you, I would have rigged up the doors so when you open the doors, it makes when you open the chest in Legend of Zelda. Can you imagine that? Just like every time.
And now we're getting into some of the things that make it a piece of shit. Doors didn't open.
Oh, really?
Wait, did you used to have to climb through the window?
Yes. The inside door handles were broken. The outside worked. I could get in from the outside. That was one thing. But
like
I would get inside and I'd close the door, and the door handles didn't break until much later on. It had a lot of issues going on, but the door handles didn't break until it was, I want to say, either Obama was still in office or it was just after Obama. But it was definitely after Obama had essentially gotten rid of scrapyards here in the U.S.
Wait, really? Why the fuck did he do that?
Yeah, he destroyed the spare parts market.
Oh my god.
What? I didn't see. This is the thing with us Australians. We get so fucking neglected about what's actually going on in the world. Like, we get told shit. Or see, over here they like raved on how good Obama was, but then like obviously yourself and many other people go, no,
like,
he like fucked us.
On the grand stage, he was pretty good.
He was a real good talker.
In terms of internal policies, not so good.
Yeah. So what was his reasoning behind it? Was it so that way he could like promote manufacturing of cars or something?
I think it was just clearing up land space or something like that. Okay. He was like, oh, see, these things are dumps. And it's like, no, it's not a dump. All of those like busted up cars that you see in like a junkyard, those aren't just there collecting rust.
They're parts.
Those are being used.
Yeah,
they're parts.
They're parts.
Like, they're used to repair future cars. They're essentially cannibalizing those cars.
See, if I had, so this is what I would do, right? This is, say for example, I need to replace a brake caliper on a car, right? Which my front left-hand brake caliper is, believe it or not, from a different model and year of my car. I'll tell you that story. It's fucked. It's actual fucked. This is the reason why I hate mechanics. Anyway, so what I would do is if I had a workshop, for example, like in the future, I'd love to have like a nice big shed that I can put my car in and have a hoist or that sort of shit. But what I would love to have like a sandblaster chamber. So then that way I would go to a junkyard, or here we just call them wreckers, and I would take a brake caliper. I would then put it in there, sandblast it back to its original finish. Obviously I've taken all the piston out and taken all the rings and all that sort of shit out.
Yeah.
And I'd recondition it myself, and then I put new boots, new pistons in it, and then reseal it back up and whatnot, which you can buy all that stuff. That's all spare parts that you can buy from anywhere. It's all generic shit. And then boom, I got pretty much a brand new brake caliper ready to go, and just plug it all in and away you go. Now back to the story about why my front left-hand brake caliper is a different brake caliper. So it is actually a brake caliper from a Thai build, which over here the Navaros has two different type of builds that we're getting in Australia. So you guys have the Frontier, which is just its own, so you guys don't have to deal with the same shit we do. Yeah. So we get basically an Asian built and a European built. The European built, in my opinion, is a better build quality, where the Thai has a better built chassis because they actually have reinforcements and stuff like that, where the Europeans don't. European ones are the ones that tend to snap, like they'll like bend like that and break. Only when you get bad rust. If you don't have a rust issue like we do in Australia, it's not a problem. But in like Europe and that, where it snows and people salt roads, it's a pretty big problem. Anyway, long story short, so I booked my car in to get a service at the dealership. And I will say this, at Nissan. And I found that there is this random fucking bolt in my glove box, in my center console. And I'm like, where the fuck does this belong to? And I went in there straight away. I was like, where does this belong to? And it's like, oh, this doesn't belong to your car. It's just a random bolt. And I'm like thinking, why would you put a random bolt that doesn't belong to my car in my car?
It's a gift.
Yeah,
that's just logic. Up. That's legit. And he's like, oh, this bolt isn't a Nissan bolt and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay. So I get home and I have a look around and everything looks somewhat okay. This is obviously before the channel started kicking off the automotive stuff. This is one of the reasons why I sort of started doing the automotive side of my channel. And I'm looking at the facings of it. So it's a hardened steel bolt. So it's got the 3 little dashes on the corner edges of the bolt, and it is a bit rusted, so I definitely know it was fucking used. And I'm like, okay, this looks exactly like all the bolts on this fucking car, so that guy's a load of shit. So I had already booked in, because I was told by Nissan, so they sold me a car that basically needed all new brakes, which pissed me off. So it needed new brake rotors, which is another shit thing about Nissan, is their brake rotors, so a brake rotor's the disc that the brakes seal onto, right? So that's what we call a brake rotor. a rotor. So it's made out of like a composite, an alloyed composite. So it's really soft, and so you have to actually replace them every 10,000 Ks, which is bullshit. So pretty much they're a yearly replacement, why would you do that? So I went and organized with another company, which also was kind of shit as well. But regardless, so I got them to redo the rotors with aftermarket steel rotors because I wanted proper, and to replace all the front and rear brake pads. So I drop it in there and whatnot, and I get a phone call. And they're like, hey, there's a bit of a problem. I'm like, okay, what's wrong? And he's like, have you been having issues braking? I'm like, yeah, she's been a little difficult to brake. Yeah, that's for sure. They're like, your left hand brake rotor, brake caliper wasn't attached.
Oh,
And I'm like,
oh,
are you
great.
fucking serious? And they're like, yeah. It looks like it's only got one bolt to the mounting bracket that's like really loose and just like rattling around.
Oh no!
And the top bolt's missing.
Oh my god!
So they're like, so we're gonna have
lovely.
to. They're like, we're gonna have to replace the entire brake caliper because the brake caliper's like basically fucked. And I'm like, oh, fuck's sake. I'm like, how much is it gonna cost? No. They're like, no, we're gonna do that for free. I'm like, oh, okay, that's nice. So I go to pick her up, and they're like, yeah, we did it for free because we felt bad, and they're like, who did this? Like, who took it apart? I'm like, Nissan did it like 3 days ago. Like, they serviced my car, and they're like, why did they take the brake caliper off for service? I'm like, I don't know. And then I showed them the bolt, and they're like, yeah, that's the brake caliper mounting bolt. That's the one that's missing.
That's the bolt that's missing.
So some fucking apprentice servicing my car decided to take my fucking brake caliper off, and God knows why, because it wasn't in there to do a brake job. It was in there to have an oil change, because that's all they fucking do. They charge $380 for a fucking oil change. And then
Holy
for some reason,
crap.
some smart spark decided, I'm going to take his fucking brake caliper off, and I don't know why. So they took off a brake caliper. So what they
do something.
So this is the dodgy thing about the place that I went to that did the job. Like they're mechanics and they do know what they're doing, and they replaced my brakes without any issues, and they didn't charge me for the brake caliper. So I'm happy about that. But what annoyed me about them, right? So I paid them to do my brakes, but they didn't do it. They took it to a third party at a wreckers to do it.
Oh, what?
So
That's so
dodgy, yeah. So I didn't go back to them because of that. I'm like, I'm paying you to pay someone else. Like, it doesn't make sense. So, but yeah, they just basically ripped it off a Thai build 2012 Nissan Navara and then put it on mine because it was just, the calipers the same. The calipers were the same on both of them. They were both on a 19-inch brake rotor or something like that. I don't know. They match up, but when you look at the stamps, they're like different stamps, which is funny to me. So my car's a little bit of a Frankenstein already just from that.
I wish that was an option for my Acura.
Yeah.
Because like I said, thanks to Obama, the entire old car spare parts market collapsed. It was gone. They had to completely scrap everything and give them to like recycling recyclers, so that they can melt down all of those spare parts into just raw resources. And
so they can build them
both
again.
of my inside
Well
door
done.
handles were broken.
We could just recondition
What
and sell them,
was
and that'd
a
be fine.
$2 plastic part, I could no longer get because they didn't exist anymore.
Oh,
And
wow.
Acura didn't make it anymore. So I was just sat there with 2 broken door handles. They fixed it for a bit because they did. I love the mechanic that I brought it to for it. He tried his best.
You know what I would have done? I would have so this is what I would have done. This would be some fucking bush mechanic shit here, right? So I would have got a bolt latch for like a door, and I would have just welded the cunt to the door, and then you just have the little bolt latch to lock it. That's what I would do, and then just leave the car like completely unlocked all the time, because honestly, he's gonna steal a car when the door's latch don't even work. They'll open and be like,
well, the latch worked. That's the unfortunate part.
Oh,
the
the
door
latch-
handle is what didn't work.
yeah.
And we'll get to why that was a problem here soon.
Oh wow.
But the solution that the mechanic came to, which
Yeah.
even he thought this isn't gonna work, but you got to try something. He welded the plastic together.
Oh, okay.
Like he just blowtorched the plastic to try to melt it together. But if you know anything about trying to melt two pieces of plastic together, it is
doesn't work. No.
welding is already weaker than a solid object. Plastic is already a weak material. That weld broke within the week.
Would it be?
Yeah.
Would it have been possible to just machine a block of metal to replace it?
I mean, probably, but that would have been way more expensive than it would have been worth. That
Yeah.
probably would have cost more than the car was worth.
Probably.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. I
We
would've
bought
done
the
that.
car for like $2,000 and then sunk $3,000 into it.
Yeah. Yeah, because you have to
so-
replace the motor and shit. Yeah, that's a lot of money. So
But
I did the
like,
$500
it's so-
thing.
it's so bad that the only reason we haven't sold it, even though I haven't driven it in years, is just because it's not worth selling it.
Yeah.
We will never get out of it what we have put into it, so it may as well just sit and die.
Yeah.
Anyways, so because I didn't have any functioning inside door handle, I couldn't get out unless I rolled the window down.
Yeah.
The person who owned it previously also put subwoofers in the back, which, really cool when they work. The
Oh,
issue
God.
is that the gauge of wire he used to hook up those subwoofers was a smaller gauge of wire than the ampage required.
Oh wow. Oh
So-
my god.
It would frequently, and the way that we figured that out is it would frequently just start thumping,
Yeah.
even though there's no audio going to it, because it's having surges of electricity. And eventually we just yanked the plug out of the thing because, that's a good way to start a car fire, and a car fire does not go out.
Yeah. No, just everything
But,
just burns and burns and burns. Yeah. That's what
it
scares
just
me about
goes
EVs.
until there's nothing left to burn.
Yeah.
Even worse, an electrical car fire,
Yeah.
which an electrical fire also doesn't go out until there's nothing more to burn.
Because EV cars burn for like days.
Yeah, like it's
Yeah. It's
So, like,
so scary.
we just yanked the plug and we're like, no more subs. Very
Yeah.
unfortunate. Especially because they were taking up a large portion of my trunk space.
Yeah.
So, we yanked that out, but because the wire was still there, it was still like pulling some slight power, I think. We never
Yeah.
could track down exactly what was pulling the power, but we think it was the loose wire. Was pulling power away from the battery, so the battery would frequently die.
Yeah.
My only way of getting out was the windows, which were electric.
Oh,
You
that's-
see the issue here.
I'm starting to see a connection here. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would very frequently get in the car, try to crank it, nothing, and then I would be stuck in my car, and I'd have to call someone and wait an hour for them to open the door.
Oh my
Oh
god.
my god. I wonder.
I
is
lived like an
incredible.
idiot, and
I'm-
it happens so often.
I wonder if it would be possible to have a dual battery setup, and that one battery goes in your boot and is dedicated for the electric windows alone.
I mean, it probably could, but again, that's more than the car is worth. It'd be sinking more money into a car that's not worth it.
I don't know. It's a couple of dollars for wiring, a couple of dollars for battery. It's not that bad.
You gotta pull a damn car
Yeah.
apart to
Like-
actually get the wiring to the right place.
Fuck it, stapled to the roof.
Fucking hell.
But yeah. Anyways, so eventually we were like, and there was also like all sorts of leak problems, and we couldn't replace those because a lot of that we could potentially replace hosing, but a lot of the issue wasn't necessarily hosing; it was parts, and those parts were bespoke to the Acura Legend.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
once again, no spare parts. So it just hit a point where it was like, yeah,
Does-
it can be fixed, but it's so not worth fixing that you may as well buy a brand new vehicle.
Yeah.
It would be cheaper to buy a new vehicle than it would be to maintain that car. So eventually the car, we started looking at other places. The car barely made it to Missouri when I moved. We had to replace the battery on the road. Or correction, it wasn't the battery. We had to replace the alternator on the road because the alternator died
that's
out.
even worse.
Luckily, the car started dying close to town, which, it's the alternator dying is better than the battery dying if you're on the road, if you're with someone, because you can jump the car and then get it going a little bit further, and then it dies again, you let it coast, jump it up again, repeat that process until you get there. You can't do that with a dead battery.
Oh, really?
Well, if the battery just died in itself, you could charge the battery up and then run off the alternator. But if the battery itself is dead, and there's no electricity coming from it, then how are you going to start the alternator?
Cal, I haven't shown you this, right? Actually, no. So, okay, well, I'm gonna circle back to this. Apologize. So, what were the common problems with Humvees when they used to fail on you? Like when you were like in the military? Like, why were they
early on
a heap of shit?
there weren't a whole lot of crazy problems. There was most of the issues with the Humvee actually didn't have a whole lot to do with the Humvee itself. The design at its core is good in terms of reliability. The issue is the scenario it was put into. Similar to like how the AR and the AK are reliable, but if you put them in an environment that they aren't fit for, they start jamming up constantly because they just aren't meant for it. Same with the Humvee. The Humvee is a gas guzzler. It requires a lot of gas all the time, and it needs a specific kind of gas to run reliably. The military does not do that. I don't think we hardly even use gas or diesel for the most part. What we use is a special kind of gas called MoGas. That is the actual name, MoGas. MoGas.
I need MoGas.
What?
Yeah, that's the joke that we made. It's called MoGas because you need MoGas.
You need MoGas.
It was infinitely less efficient than diesel or gasoline because it tried to do both. Essentially what MoGas was meant for is to make a standardized fuel that works both in a diesel engine and a gas engine.
That is a bad idea.
That's not
it was absolutely horrendous.
They are completely chemically different components. Why would you...
Well, the whole point is that the way a diesel engine works is it works off of the compression of the gas igniting it. Whereas gas runs off of a spark igniting it.
Exactly,
Essentially what they did is they made a fuel that is both compressively combustible and ignitably combustible, but not too ignitably or too compressively combustible that, it would start knocking. So it didn't have the issues that diesel would have, but still worked in a diesel. And as a result, it worked shit in a diesel because it didn't combust nearly as well in the diesel as it should, or as diesel would. And it worked like shit in a gas engine because even though it was meant to not knock, it would still occasionally knock. Because, it's still going to combust sometimes. Just from the compression.
Because it's worse if you put diesel in a petrol car than it is if you put... I mean, don't do this. Don't put diesel in a petrol car and don't put petrol in a diesel car. But the reason why it's worse to do it in a petrol car is because instead of ignition, it's explosion in a petrol car because the spark ignites the diesel, but it doesn't... It's not the same as like a standard combustion. It's an explosion. It'll blow it up.
The spark will ignite it, and the combustion will also ignite it, which will create a serious knocking problem, which is both really loud and really bad for the car. Whereas if you just put gas in a diesel, it just simply won't run because gas is not meant to... It's specifically designed not to combust from compression. But anyways, the military decided to make MoGas. We used MoGas in everything. Some things were okay with MoGas. Typically, diesel was more okay with MoGas than gas. The Humvee is a gas car. So it had serious issues with knocking. It had serious issues with reliability. Everything had issues with reliability in terms of just having to use MoGas. But the Humvee being such a gas guzzler and requiring and being like very stingy with the type of gas that it wants,
Yeah.
and the sheer quantities that it wants,
Yeah,
the MoGas just was not good for it because it would burn through that MoGas so fast. Because it was less efficient than the regular gas was. So to get the same amount of effect from the MoGas that you would with regular gas,
Yeah.
you were having to use more MoGas, so you needed MoGas. There was also just the case of, we were out in this horrendous heat with these vehicles that were running a fuel that they didn't want, with oil that we didn't have. Like, there were genuine situations where we were putting gun oil inside of cars because we just did not have car oil. Or there were times where we were using, like, different kinds of oils on our guns because we didn't have gun oil. Like, I don't know if the Army had this problem, because I wasn't in the Army. I was in the Marine Corps. And the Marine Corps has always had supply issue problems, or supply chain problems, because there's the classic phrase, Marines make do, and that's because we didn't get shit.
Yeah.
Like, we got essentially nothing, and just had to make do with whatever we had. We worked with what we got. Improvise, adapt, and overcome, all that jazz. So we were using the wrong type of oil in these Humvees. Anytime something broke down, because obviously something was going to break down because we were doing awful shit to them.
Yeah.
And really rough environments. We oftentimes didn't have the parts to fix them, so we just kind of like jimmy rigged a way to make it work.
Yeah.
So that we could just at least keep moving, which further made them more unreliable, all of this jazz. And then there were just stupid things that we did with them that we thought would be a good idea at the time, like taking the doors off.
Yeah.
And then we didn't know how to put them back on, or we lost the parts to put them back on. So now they fall off all the time. And that is a classic joke of, you slam the door on the Humvee and all of the doors fall off.
Oh, that's funny.
It's just, or you're trying to like get out real fast and you just yank the door off of the Humvee.
Oh my god!
Just truly a classic. There was one scenario where I remember we were having to get the fuck out of Dodge real quick and I can't remember what the exact scenario was. But we were essentially like clambering to get back in the Humvee so that we could roll out as fast as possible because we were in a bad situation. Someone opened the door to the Humvee door fell off, so essentially we drove up holding the Humvee door on.
Oh god.
Like, he was sat there pulling the Humvee door to keep it on as we drove off.
That's nuts.
There's also the case of a lot of the replacement parts that we ended up getting, thanks to the military's requirement of the lowest bidder.
Yeah.
Meaning that whoever bids the lowest is who the military has to go for, regardless of anything.
Yeah.
If they can beat the price of the other person, that's all that matters legally, that they have to go with that person.
That sucks.
Yeah, it's not good, because usually the lowest bidder is getting away with it by doing something crappy.
Yeah, it's something dodgy that you don't. Yeah.
With Humvee replacement parts, that's exactly what happened. So, like, a lot of the replacement parts that we got were just straight up crappy aluminum.
Yeah.
Oh crap.
That's not. That's not what you want. You'd rather have steel. Yeah.
Yeah. So there was like no ballistic protection with the doors. A lot of the parts were not durable anymore. So it used to be the case that if you were getting shot at in a Humvee, and you had the doors on, it wasn't perfect protection, but it was something.
Yeah.
Most bullets would stop. Nowadays, if you're in a Humvee, more than likely, if your Humvee is getting shot at, and that's one of the reasons why we stopped using Humvees and went to MRAPs, among other reasons.
Yeah.
If you were getting shot at in a Humvee, the bullets would just sail straight through the door because
Yeah.
the door was just made of crappy aluminum. It didn't stop anything anymore.
Yeah. It's the point of having an armored vehicle that's not armored. Like,
Yeah,
that's so silly. But I'm gonna circle back
Let's make a
around.
damn thing out of paper mache.
So, Kel, this we're talking about first cars. This is my first car.
let's take a bet at it.
It's on the disc. I've got one picture on Discord, but if you look on the stream, so that was my first car. It was an old 1982 Ford Laser. This car was built in America and imported to Australia. It's American made, mate. And
Nice,
and
nice.
this is what I did to it.
Yeah.
Do you like it? It's, that
Why?
was 2 days before it got defected, and I ended up. So yeah, I painted the wheels black too. So I
Hey, the wheels of my Acura were painted.
yeah,
black, actually.
so I spray painted it black, and then I used leaves to make it like a black and white camo sort of thing. And it was funny. It was my troll car, and then the cops defected it, and I had to basically scrap it. Sad times.
Yeah,
I would still own that car if I could, to be brutally honest.
I still
Yeah,
own
that's fair.
the
But that-
Acura, but like I said, I can't get rid of the Acura.
That
But-
that car, the battery would die fairly often. It had some sort of fucking gremlin somewhere. But because it was old school, where it had like no electronics whatsoever, like had no power steering, no nothing,
That's-
no air conditioning. Like it didn't actually have an air conditioning compressor. Like it never came with air conditioning. Like
Oh, wow.
it was so
See, mine is the air
basic
conditioning thing.
that
Like-
all I need to do to start the prick is just roll it down a hill and just put into gear.
See, that's what I absolutely love about my new truck, like that I replaced the Acura with. No bells and whistles. A lot
Yeah.
of people would see that as a negative. I see it as a positive. The windows, not electric.
Less-
You roll
Yeah.
them down the old
Oh
fashioned way.
hell yeah!
The only downside when those window rinders break, they're actually kind of a cunt to replace. They're not
the
designed-
navigation system on that truck, non-existent. Doesn't even have Bluetooth. No, nothing else. Which
Oh,
is
really?
a little unfortunate, but
Yeah,
all it gets is AM, FM on the radio, and that's it. Which
Nice.
nice.
is another good thing because
You
my
have a
car,
CD player?
I would also no. Actually,
Oh.
wait, I think there was a CD player.
Hell yes! That's all you need.
Yeah,
But
sort of.
my car had the issue of its little system in it was
Yeah.
replaced with something with one of those newfangled snazzy touchscreen things.
Yeah.
But it was one of those old touchscreens that sucked.
and
And because of the power issues that it had, or the electrical issues that it had, it often did stupid things like the navigation system was archaic. It didn't make sense. But one of the things that it did have that didn't work was it had a speed limit warning on it. So if you
Yeah.
were going over the speed limit, it would start making a sound and warning you that you're going over the speed limit.
Mm-hmm.
The issue is
I was like that.
that it didn't accurately guess the speed or the speed
God.
that you were moving at, and you couldn't really tell it to not do that. All you could do was change the speed limit on certain
oh,
roads,
so you can turn
and
it
it
off.
wasn't even based off of like actual road speed limits. It was based off what it guessed that road was.
Oh my.
And it guessed what
What?
type of road that was, and
That'd
then
be
guessed the
annoying.
speed, or it went the speed limit off of what it guessed that type of road was. So
Oh,
the road next to my
man.
house is a highway. Its
Yeah.
speed limit is 55. Yeah, in the middle of that highway, there's a speed limit of 45. My car would have probably guessed, simply due to how rural that road is, oh, that thing's probably 45 all the way through, so it would yell at you the entire time you're driving.
Oh
Oh
god.
my god, that'd
Unless
be
you turned it
annoying.
off.
Oh, that is
Uh,
annoying.
That would be really annoying. Yeah.
The radio, it worked fine, but it was very bright, and you couldn't change the brightness on the screen. That was not a thing yet. So it was constantly blinding me at night, so I'd have to turn the thing off at night, which is
Just
you know, if I'm trying to navigate
Yeah,
and I'm
that'd
trying
be
to
a
use the
pain in the
navigation,
ass.
that was another thing. You can't have the radio and the navigation on at the same time.
What? Oh
Those
my
were two
God.
completely different screens. It had a source button, so
That
you changed the source on it, like switching from
yeah.
HDMI
Oh,
1 to
no.
HDMI 2
See,
kind of thing. But
Yeah.
yeah, I couldn't handle that. Like I've got my center console runs everything econ and all that sort of stuff. Like because I got I got dual climate control and all that sort of stuff. Like my car's got all the bells and whistles, which I love. But the sat nav is shit because it's like you can't update it. But it's the same sat nav that was in the GDR 35. So
yeah, mine does not
So,
have
yeah.
anything like that. I just use my phone, which is
yeah,
arguably a lot better. The only thing I wish it had
I've got an
was
actual
an aux
dedicated
cord
sat
or a
nav.
Bluetooth.
Yeah, that would suck not having an aux cord. But then again, you could probably just get one of those AM FM converter things that you plug your phone into and it converts it to
Yeah, which
AM
is
FM and then just listen.
what I've been
Yeah.
considering doing that. They're not expensive. I just never got around to it. What I have been using so far is a Bluetooth speaker,
Yeah.
which is not as good because it's nowhere near as good as my truck's sound system,
Yeah.
which is also not fancy, but a car's sound system is inherently really good.
Yeah. I have another question. What
Yeah.
is the coolest thing you've driven?
Oh, that's a good question.
Mm.
I would argue my car, but that's a very biased statement.
That is potentially true. Yes.
Yeah, but it's your
Does driven require it to be something like a land vehicle, or can it be?
It can
a
be
boat
what?
or a
It can
plane or a
be boat,
helicopter?
plane, helicopter, whatever the fuck it is. Something that's cool.
Helicopter.
So you have flown a
I've flown
helicopter.
a helicopter before. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
It was during high school. I was in a Air Force JROTC Junior Recruiter Officer Training Corps.
Oh yeah.
It was essentially like a military based class in high school.
Yeah.
That ended up essentially functioning more as a class that I got to goof off in. It also functioned as a aerospace science class.
Oh, okay.
Which was really cool, but for the most part, it was just a class that you got to goof off in for the most part.
Yeah.
Except for every Wednesday, I want to say, was uniform day, and you had to wear the uniform. You had to be clean shaven and all that stuff, which I had a beard that grew very fast. So I struggled to stay clean shaven.
Yeah.
And I also had one of those, at the time, newfangled electric razors that didn't shave worth a crap.
Yeah.
So I would always have like a light stubble, and then they'd be like, yeah, you got no stubble. Yeah, you fail this one. Go kill yourself, and I'd cry.
Yeah, I struggle shaving. I need a new shaver because, like, you can see on here, like, it's my electric shaver is struggling because I can't use razors.
Don't shave.
Otherwise, fucking. Otherwise, like, I break out in hives and stuff. If I use the razor, so
See,
I
I wish I had that problem. If I had that problem, I would have been able to get a.
Yeah.
I would have been able to wear a beard in the military.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That sucks.
Yeah, you can.
So, what type of helicopter was it then?
I can't remember. It's been years, but what I did end up finding out at one point, thanks to VR, is that the concept of flying it does not go away.
All right.
Nah, it doesn't.
Because and honestly, I've flown a lot of planes in flight sims. I've been learning or trying to study how to fly a plane because I want to get my pilot's license.
It's fun flying planes. I've flown a couple.
So cool,
I've flown a few. I've never landed, but I've taken off and I've done a few maneuvers like aerobatic maneuvers and stuff, and like gliders and stuff. I've flown a helicopter through Air Force cadets, like similar to yours. That was cool. And obviously like sims and stuff like that. Like if you, okay, say for example, I'm gonna say me and Kel, right? We're in a plane or a helicopter together, and the pilot has a heart attack or something. I'm confident in myself that I could land us quite safely.
I don't know if I could land us safely, but I am confident that I could keep it stable until someone walks me in or
Yeah.
walks me through
Yeah.
landing it.
No, I honestly think I could land a helicopter safely.
A helicopter I could land, like,
Yeah.
absolutely, but a
It's a lot
helicopter
easier.
is so very different
Yeah.
from airplanes, which is what I was getting at. Is like an airplane. The way I would describe it is an airplane beautifully utilizes science, physics, and aerodynamics
Yeah.
to maintain lift and stay in the air. It's a beautiful balance of science. A helicopter spits in the face of gravity and in the face of science and brute forces flight.
No, that's not true though. Like,
Oh, it absolutely is.
No,
It
it's
is.
not.
A plane is using like all sorts of really neat physics, like all these neat physics methods of keeping up lift and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas a helicopter is just pushing down so hard that it like starts to go up.
Yeah, and it needs a second rotor to make sure that it stays straight. So I can see where
yeah,
with that.
And you can feel it when you're flying it.
You lose that second rotor, you can still fly though. Like I was taught
you just
how
have
to do that. You have to get up to 100.
Yeah, you have to just sort of wiggle it a bit, and that straightens it out. And then as long as you're moving forward, you'll stay going forward.
I think you have to do 120 knots for it to be stable. I think from memory.
I
think it's 120
anyways,
knots.
the thing with a helicopter is, and you can feel it when you're flying it, is you are constantly fighting both the torque and the speed, and trying to balance that constantly, because too much torque and you start to ruin the whole deal that you've got going on, and you start going down, or at least not going up.
See,
too little torque and you start going down.
Yeah.
So there's like but at the same time, you can't go so low. Like you can't go so low with the torque that your speed starts going low. You can't go so high with the torque that you have more torque than you have speed. So you're constantly like moving the collective the entire time you're flying.
I love it
because essentially you're fighting against physics to stay in the air as opposed to working with physics.
I fucking love it, man. I love flying helicopters. Like in real life, like I mean, yeah, I only got to fly it once, and it was an Iroquois, which was fucking sick. And in VR and like in sim gears and stuff like that, because I really want to get like an actual collective joystick as well, because I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Dude, I would love to have a collective.
I'd love to have one. I think VKB sell one as well.
I play a lot of VTOL VR.
Yeah, Verpal sell one as well, which is cool.
VTOL VR is such a great game.
Yeah.
For showing you the difference between a plane and a helicopter.
But
and honestly, surprisingly, I think it's just because I've actually flown a helicopter before. I am better with a helicopter than I am with a plane. Like playing VTOL VR, I will get shot down essentially every single time in a plane. The moment someone starts firing back at me, it's over. It's done.
Yeah.
Pack it up. We're over. We're through. With a helicopter, I literally ducked under and dodged a SAM missile. Like it felt so badass. Like we were flying directly at a boat that had a SAM missile. I had my my Wizzo, my weapons service officer.
So this here is the Iroquois helicopter that in cadets we got to like have a little play in. This one here, this is the reason why we were able to get troops out of Vietnam, Kel. We made that. So we didn't have armed reconnaissance helicopters that were like, basically gunships. And so a bunch of engineers and that decided, let's just throw together a whole heap of weapons on a fucking helicopter and then and see how it goes. And it was so effective to the point that when our generals and stuff got really antsy about this, because they jumped up and down when they found out about it, it was like a huge shitstorm. To the point that the American army was like, no, you guys have to keep that because that thing is saving our lives. But I heard stories from an Iroquois pilot in Vietnam. And he was saying that when these things are loaded up with ammunition, so it was only ever your Rizzo and your pilot, and he was saying that these things were loaded so much with ammunition that to take off, you would have to bunny hop and get momentum going on the runway. Because they're not a very powerful helicopter. Like,
They're probably meant to be lightweight.
yeah, they are. They're supposed to be in and out. But those things would come in. He was like, they would come in and say you got a platoon on the ground that's completely surrounded by Viet Cong. Is like, they tell us their exact location, and our pilots and Rizzos were so accurate with those missiles and firing that pretty much they would just annihilate everyone in the surrounding area. It's like, we would come in, destroy the whole landscape. No one lived. If they were in tunnels, like, doesn't matter, they're dead. Like the things, because it was just bombard everything, and then the evac crew will come in, land, take them out, and then go out. Which I think that's the reason why it was so effective, because they'll come in, destroy everything around it, and then like during the madness, helicopters come in, pick up the troops, and get out of there.
Yeah, one of the downsides of the Americans, I think, when it comes to that, is the Huey.
Yeah,
was it was a very good gunship, and it was a very good transport helicopter, but it couldn't be both.
Yeah.
So a gunship had so little space inside of it, like a gunship setup of a Huey had so little space inside of it that you couldn't really transport a unit. So if you sent up a gunship Huey, you couldn't go and pull people out of somewhere at the same time with it. You could only send it in for support, and then if you wanted to get someone out, you had to send a very low armored armed Huey that only had, two M60s on either side, and that was your weapons. To the point to where a method that transport Hueys found to replace the fact that they didn't have any like missiles or anything, was they would carry a box of grenades in the pilot seat with them, and then they just drop grenades out the side of the Huey as like a bomb.
It's kind of like what they're doing now with drones. It's crazy.
Which, funny enough, with the grenade thing, that I ended up finding out that is a long history of things that have been done. Like,
well, the first World War I planes with that, they would just fly over in the biplane, and just drop
essentially
grenades
had
from the
a
sky.
specialized mortar and then drop the mortar, and it was like, it's just. Also, I find it really funny that World War I planes combat Zeppelins that were being used for or just balloons in general that were being used for observation. Instead of using like the guns on a plane to take it out, they had a special flare gun that they had with them to shoot them out of or shoot into them, and then it would explode them.
That'd be
so
a
they had
lot
a
more
flare
effective than
gun
bullets.
like with them to combat. There's also recorded scenarios of the pilots having a handgun and then shooting at other pilots with that handgun.
Yeah.
So they were doing drive-bys in the air with handguns.
I remember the story about the Red Baron. He did that. He shot someone fucking with a handgun and like took out their plane with it. Because like the planes back then, they were like so unreliable. Like
they were
shot down by.
They were wooden canvas.
Yeah, they were shot down by everyone. Like, not only you had to worry about other planes, which, I mean, there wasn't that many, but they were still around. You had to worry about those fucking balloons that they would put up that would, like, have those big steel lines that would designed to catch the wings of the planes and take them down. And then also you had to worry about ground fire because, like, troops would just shoot them out of the sky. And, like, that's another funny thing in the war in the Pacific is, have you ever held an Arisaka rifle?
I own one, and yes, it's got the airplane sights on it.
I've actually read that in a book.
Yeah, they have airplane sights. So,
hold on, I'm going to get my Arisaka. I may drop, or my headset may lose me. Where's my Arisaka?
That's okay.
She deserves to be played with.
If you send a picture, if you take a photo and put it in the Discord, I can show you the viewers and stuff what it looks like. So So the way it works, so a lot of Japanese soldiers back in the day couldn't read and write right. So what they did is they had it on their manuals. It was all pictures.
Ah, there she.
So their manuals on how to operate the firearm were all pictures. They didn't have writing in it or anything like that because most of the troops couldn't read or write. And like on the manual, and I've seen this manual, and on the manual, it's like flip down sight, point at plane, lead there, shoot. And like,
Yeah,
and
like
so many planes were shot down in the Pacific from that fucking rifle. I was like, really?
And it's a bolt action rifle.
Yeah,
and it's
that
so
is
fucking funny.
They shot down so many planes
incredible.
because, like, in like say the Pacific in like Papua New Guinea and stuff like that, because of the terrain and the way the mountains work, you get a lot of like crosswinds and stuff like that. So pilots actually couldn't fly very high because if they fly too high, they'll get an upwind and it can knock them out of the sky. Because flying in those sort of high altitude sort of environments that are hilly and mountainous is actually really dangerous to fly in. That's why like Australian pilots here, still to this day, do their training in Papua New Guinea, because if you can fly in Papua New Guinea, you can fly anywhere in the world because the atmosphere is really thin, the winds are unpredictable, and you could be flying along and you could just fall out of the sky because you've just lost air pressure and hit a pocket. So
I sent the Type 99's irons in the Discord,
that's a really nice iron sight.
yeah, they
Like,
are a nice rifle.
It's such a good rifle. I adore
Out,
the Arasaka.
So scenes that thing could shoot airplanes out of the sky that were hundreds of meters up in the air. How accurate is that damn thing?
It's not that accurate from memory. I mean, it will.
No, it's extremely accurate. Are you kidding?
No, it's they're
I'm sorry, Hunter, but I'm going with the guy who owns the damn thing.
Like, if you were talking about last ditch ones, those ones have some accuracy issues. But that's because the last ditch ones, the quality on them started falling down.
Yeah.
So the early war and pre-war Type 99s and Type 38s in general, because a lot of the Type 38s were pre-war from World War One.
They're plain sights there.
Were so incredibly accurate. They also had a lot of things going on with them that not a lot of other rifles used. Like the barrels on the Arasakas oftentimes had a
bayonet
material, nickel lining or something.
Yeah,
I don't recall if it was actually nickel, but the barrel had a lining to prevent any corrosion inside of the barrel.
Oh wow.
See, all the ones that I've seen fire, like, well, there's only one that I have seen that's in like pristine condition to the point where the Imperial Crown wasn't destroyed, which means that it was never handed over to Allied forces. That one apparently was accurate, but all the ones I've seen haven't been accurate because they served in New Guinea, and the humidity and the rough terrain and all, they're thrown around and shit as well. That's probably why they weren't accurate.
The ones in New Guinea, probably their issue is less about the rifle not being accurate and more that the rifle was abused and not taken care of.
Yeah.
Which is one of the things that you see with AKs. The AK in and of itself is not a bad rifle. It's not an inaccurate rifle. It's not super accurate with 7.62 because 7.62 as a cartridge is not very accurate.
Yeah.
But the rifle itself can perform. It's just a matter of a lot of the rifles we went up against were ones that were used and abused and old.
Yeah.
The Type 99, a lot of the ones here in the States are really good rifles. Mostly because they came over to the States and then they sat here. And
so
a lot of them unfortunately got bubbled.
Yeah.
So like hunters would do really awful things to them.
Oh, that sucks.
And turn them into hunting rifles, which is unfortunate. But it just goes to show that hunters had their hands on them and were like, this is a really good rifle.
Yeah.
I'm going to make this into a better hunting rifle, which honestly, in all fairness, the Type 99 on its start is not a good hunting rifle. I actually took it out hunting. The thing that I forgot about is the lowest zero that the rifle has is 300 meters.
Yeah.
So if you're shooting at something that's 50 to 100 meters away, you are shooting very high.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you need to
It was
aim
actually
really low.
doctrine. It was actually doctrine. And I want to say the Germans also did this, where the lowest zero was 300.
Yeah. I
It
think
had the same doctrine.
The
If you're
Enfield
shooting
was
in close
200.
range, you have to aim at the belt buckle
Yeah.
to be able to hit them in the chest.
Oh, right. Far out.
The Enfields were 200, weren't they?
I
200,
am not
250.
sure.
I know it was over 100. Because ours, like, if at our, because we've got a 3-bander. What is it? It's a 3-bander 4-star or something like that. Royal Enfield served in
My issue
Kokoda.
with the Enfield is the iron sight is so wide that I feel like you don't really have an accurate zero with it in the first place. It's
Only
just,
the British built ones are. The Australian ones aren't.
well, I've only ever
Yeah.
had experience with the British built
Yeah,
ones.
the Australian built the Lithgow ones are exactly like the Arasaka. The 4-stars, some of them even came out of the peep sight as well, which was handy. So they had both the wedge and the peep sight. They're accurate because what they used to do, because it was a floating barrel, but they also used to use a rubber grommet at the end of them, which I think the British used not rubber but something else. But Lithgow's used rubber because it was easy to replace it when it deteriorates, and that sort of kept them pretty accurate. But
See,
but
I'm not
I
a
can
fan of using that kind of method to try to maintain accuracy. Just bed the rifle good. Just make a good bedding for the rifle.
Well,
the
reason for it is humidity. It was so they did it because so what happens when you go to a humid climate and you have wood stock?
See, the thing with the glass bedding though is that you're putting a resin over it. The resin prevents the swelling from causing issues. That's one of the reasons why glass bedding is so highly sought after, and it's one of the reasons why in the Pacific there was a guy who I can't remember his name, but he wrote a book about his experience serving the Pacific.
Yeah.
And one of the things that he had found when serving with the Marines in the Pacific is, as a gunsmith, and it pissed him off so much that he actually went out of his way to fix it. None of the rifles that the U.S. military was using were bedded. The M1 Garand wasn't bedded. The M1903 wasn't bedded.
Yeah.
It was just, sat in a wood stock, and that's it. In the Pacific, you had that issue. You were in a hot, humid place.
Yeah.
It swelled, which threw off the accuracy, which was arguably killing people.
Yeah.
Not the people that were wanted to be killed.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
So what he ended up doing out of anger was he took all of the rifles in the unit that he had access to, bedded all of their rifles, and then that fixed the issue because a good glass bedding prevents liquid from getting into the rifle or getting into the wood, and also prevents the wood from warping because the wood will swell around the bedding, but the bedding itself won't move.
So what Australians used to do, they used to because like you say about the resin on the stock to prevent that from happening, that costs money, and the British and Australian government, they don't like to spend money. So
they don't like spending money.
Exactly. So usually the wood stock had like a very basic varnish on. That was about it, really. So what they did, they used the rubber grommets and it was only at the end of the barrel to sort of help with the flow, to help to keep it bed. But what the Australian troops cracked on about is they used to use candle racks. So they'll take the barrel apart and they'll take it out of the wood stock, and they would coat the inside of the wood stock with candle racks or beeswax, and then that stops the water from getting in there and swelling up, so that way they don't lose accuracy. And that's how they used to do it. Because
that stops the water, but that's not a true bedding. A bedding will actually improve the accuracy of the rifle.
It's not, but it's when you've got to do something. Yeah. Because a lot of those guys, they wouldn't know how to do any of that stuff. I mean, I don't know how to do it because I'm not a gunsmith, but yeah.
My issue though with the rubber is the same issue I have with modern Remingtons, which they have instead of bedding is something known as a pressure pad, which is absolutely disgusting. It warps the barrel to try to like keep it going straight. But the issue is that you are now sending a bullet down a warped barrel.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
In fact,
Remington sucks
in my
so
college,
bad.
the guy that we were studying who brought this to my attention, we were studying one of his papers. He's actually an Australian gunsmith who was telling us about this, or who wrote the paper that we were studying from about rifle bedding and whatnot. And yeah, that was like his big thing, and he shat all over Remington constantly.
Oh wow.
He was constantly like, if you have all these rifles, you can suggest to your customer to bed the rifle.
Yeah.
And that it would improve the rifle's accuracy and whatnot. And then he said, if they have a Remington, make them bed their rifle. They are worthless as is. You need to fix them.
Because you had an issue a while ago, didn't you, about a customer came in with a Remington and he wanted you to try and start it in, and you just could not get it accurate. It just would not work.
Yeah, I couldn't. The issue was he had 3 rifles.
Yeah.
One of them I couldn't shoot because he brought me the wrong ammo, and he said, whatever, I think it's accurate enough. And I was like, why'd you bring it to me? I got paid for it anyway, so who cares? But the other 2, one, and they were like, it was the perfect compare and contrast between an El Cheapo rifle and a really nice high-end rifle.
Yeah.
It was a really nice Weatherby that was chambered in a very large cartridge. It was chambered in their own Weatherby cartridge. I can't remember the caliber on it. And the other one was just a simple, regular old 270 Remington. The Remington, just flat out, the Weatherby was a dream to shoot. The concussion from the barrel was high because it's such a powerful round, but like it didn't recoil like crazy. It didn't try to jump on me. It was just a very nice shooting rifle. It was outstanding. It was incredibly accurate. I want to say it was half an MOA of accuracy, so that's half an inch at 100 yards.
Which is pretty good. Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, that's extremely good.
That's almost 22 accuracy.
Typical standard of accuracy is the highest range you want is a minute and a half of, or 1.5 minute of angle is the highest you want to go to can still call it accurate. That's half a minute. That's about as low as you can realistically get without going like insane with the design.
It's
especially with a wood stock
and the execution as well.
It's funny because the most accurate rifle we have is a rifle that was found at a tip. It's a rubbish dump, and it was reconditioned by my old man, and that thing is so accurate you can shoot hole for hole consistently.
Yeah, that's
so accurate.
That's essentially how that Weatherby was. It was pretty dang close to that. Like zeroing that was no problem. I send 3 rounds down range. I know exactly where it's hitting, and then I adjust from there. I didn't have to go with the 5-round standard.
The only variations just wind and all that stuff.
Yeah, it was, and because I was shooting with a rest, I wasn't the one who was maintaining the accuracy. It was just sitting there. So there was no sway from me. There was no human error. And it was hitting so close to each other that it was so easy to work with. And then that Remington, despite using a weaker cartridge, it caused, and I was using I can't remember if it's a 25-pound or a 50-pound bag of lead. To weigh down the stand or to weigh down the rest. Either way, it was causing it to jump.
What?
It was lifting 25 to 50 pounds off of the ground.
The fuck?
That sounds like a nightmare.
With a 270.
Yeah,
which is a nothing cartridge. That's like 308.
Yeah, well,
so that's like bouncing all over the place.
A 270, because a 270 is it a 22? No, it's a 223 projectile with a bigger casing.
No, a 270 is a no, the projectile is 270, so it's bigger than 223. but it's not as big as 308.
Yeah. Because they're really good
I
deer
can't remember
rounds.
what its parent case is off the top of myself or the top of my head, but it's a
either.
very common deer round. And it is not a very powerful deer round. It is just considered the bare bones basic deer round.
It's the round where you want to basically get as close as you can and do a heart-long shot right underneath the arm here.
Yeah, it's your good generalist cartridge.
It's also a really good round if you're hunting and you're doing it for meat because it causes the least amount of damage.
Yeah, it's. But the thing is that it's not a crazy powerful round. Is the big point, and
it's doing that
kicking more.
That's dangerous,
than
man.
A very large caliber Weatherby. It was jumping so much, and when I was trying to zero it, I ended up finding out, unfortunately, that it had a 3 MOA accuracy. That is 3 inches at 100 yards. Holy shit.
So
that is a quarter of a foot at 100 yards.
We've so I used to have a 22 Remington. That was a heap of shit. I couldn't get a pattern smaller than that. At 50 meters. It was I had it in because when we have a zeroing rest, so it's literally like a clamping system. So when you're zeroing your scope and that, there is no human error whatsoever when you use it because it doesn't move. It's clamped and held in exact position, has little dials and everything like that to raise the barrel up and whatnot. And anyways, we use this thing and we shot consecutively, and no matter what, the rounds were fucking all over the place, and we couldn't figure out what it was. We didn't know whether it was because it was the barrel was going up. We didn't know whether it was because the crown was damaged. We had no idea. In the end, I ended up just handing it into the police to destroy it because I'm like, fuck this thing.
Yeah, fair enough.
And then there was an air rifle, which was the same thing. It couldn't shoot straight. It was a heap of shit. So I just hate Remington. They're just a crap brand. No one should buy them.
And the sad thing is they used to be good.
Yeah, back in the day.
Remington really was good, and then they went bankrupt.
Yeah.
And then another company bought out Remington. And then quality dropped dramatically.
Yeah.
They stopped betting their rifles. They started putting pressure pads in. They stopped caring about the crown. They stopped caring about fit and finish and deburring things, and so everything is all rough cut.
Yeah.
Oh God.
And you can see it anytime you look at the crown of a Remington. You don't even have to take it apart to see all the bad stuff.
Yeah.
You can just look at the crown of a Remington, and if you look close enough, you'll see that it will be covered in burrs. It's like they didn't.
They just don't give a shit.
It's like they took the tool. It's like they took the barrel and the action and everything.
Yeah.
Off of the machine, and didn't polish it. They didn't deburr it. They didn't do anything with it. They just threw it together and sent it off.
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
So I'm going to change subject completely 360 on this one. We're even going to go away from cars and guns and stuff because it is really, really fascinating, but I do like to sort of, change things up a bit.
You bring a gunsmith on and then you say no more guns.
Right.
well, yeah. Okay, so have you seen the new One Piece live action yet, Kel?
No, I don't watch One Piece.
Well, I can tell you one thing.
I make fun of people for watching One Piece.
One Piece, the cartoon. Sorry, not the cartoon, the anime. One Piece, the anime is a heap of shit and I hate it.
Yeah.
The live action is actually good.
Oh.
I actually like the live action.
Either.
I actually like the live action over the anime.
Which is...
And I'll tell you why.
It seems like they've finally learnt from their numerous amount of mistakes.
I tell you right, okay? The reason why I like it is the biggest problem I had One Piece the anime is the fucking filler would be so boring and take for ages. The story would just drag its feet continuously until something happens. Nothing happens. Where the live action is the pacing is better, and so it makes it better, and the characters are better because they're not so crazy.
Oh, you mean it doesn't take the equivalent of several hundred hours to tell you its story?
The first episode where that Kreen pirate, the one that had the mace, was like 3 episodes of Luffy being snuck on board the ship and then getting out with that little pink-haired guy with the glasses. On the show, it was like 20 minutes. And he beat her and blew up the ship and then took the pink-haired guy to go off. The Zoro thing, meeting Zoro and Steeljaw and all of them, same episode. It was fucking amazing pacing. I fucking love it. Like, I was just like, this is so much better. Shit's actually happening. Yeah, I liked it. I actually recommend it. Yeah, the pacing's a lot better.
Okay.
See,
Yeah, usually pacing is like something you learn at the end of that sort of stuff, where it becomes like it separates the masters to the artists.
Yeah. They do it in a way that time has passed, but you don't have to watch the time that's passed of nothingness happening. Because like between they meet Zoro and he fled the ship in the first like few episodes, and even the backstory stuff is only like short. So like it's like, okay, this is Luffy's backstory. This is him as a kid. This is Shanks. This is when he got the devil fruit. It's so short and sharp and snappy. Like, you don't get his entire life story. You get the general gist, and it's like, oh, cool. And that's all you need. Like, you don't need to know what fucking he ate for breakfast. Because I just hate One Piece, and it's finally started to like look like they got the hint as it's coming to the end. Where now, spoiler alert, fuck you, I don't care. Luffy is now a god.
What?
Luffy
we've gone to space with this one.
Luffy,
like actual god or just
an actual god.
Metaphorical god.
He's an actual god. So Luffy is the reincarnation of the sun god, Joy Boy.
Oh.
So the devil fruit is the power is not actually the Gama Gama fruit. It's actually the sun god fruit. And Luffy is a reincarnation of Joy Boy, which is the sun god. It's like a god of laughter.
Gumma now?
No, it's not called Gumma. It's actually called something else. They explain it.
Because I mean like the fruit that it claimed at the very beginning. Because last time I watched One Piece,
it was Gum fruit,
during
but
the 4Kids version, where it was Gum fruit.
It was Gum, but I'm pretty sure it's Gumma Gumma, like the Japanese translation.
Back when they wouldn't let Zoro smoke and they gave him lollipops instead.
Yeah, yeah, because it was offensive or some shit like that, or too scary. Something stupid.
4Kids, and they also had a rap intro.
Yeah. I mean, they did have the Pokemon rap. Do you still remember that?
I do remember the Pokemon rap.
I fucking love
classic.
That was so good. I fucking wish I could rattle that off by heart.
I miss old Pokemon.
Yeah, the new ones suck. Well, Ash is dead now anyway, so.
What?
Yeah, Ash is gone. Yeah, Ash's story's over. Didn't you know that? They finished it. He's done.
Yeah.
What?
He finally died.
Like, actually died?
Did he die at the age of 10? No. Because he has not changed from the age of 10 the entire time.
Yeah, no, he's been a 10-year-old for 25 years.
They fucking make jokes of it too. So, like, in Pokemon X and Y, Ash literally says, I have been traveling for 32 years. Like, it was like a one-line thing. I'm like watching it a lot because I've seen all the Pokemon in both English and Japanese, except for when they went to the England, like, so the English generation one. I never saw that because I've gotten over it. But so in it was after XY. What was it? It was the Hawaiian one. I think it was. I think it was a Hawaiian one.
Alola or something?
Yeah, Alola. So they were like, so how long have you been traveling for? And he's like, I've been traveling for 32 years. That was it. I'm just like, you seriously just said that? Like,
he's eternally 10.
He's eternally 10. Everyone else grows up around him but him. He's a fucking vampire.
I choose to believe it was the time at the very beginning where he saw that Ho-Oh and that Ho-Oh talent
gave them eternal life.
Yeah, that's what happened.
I find it funny that Ash, like, in 32 years, has hooked up with 3 chicks.
Yeah, one every decade.
And one of them was a Pokemon.
All right. If we're going with
So the first
Was it a Vaporeon?
No. The first Pokemon was a Latios.
Yeah.
Transformed into a person and made out with him before he left for the dock.
I don't know how I feel about that.
He thought it was the chick that it turned into, but it wasn't. It was Latios. It like fully ran after him on the dock and like
if I remember
embraced him and
correctly,
kissed
didn't
him.
it kiss him and then turn into the Pokemon? It was like, ah!
Yeah, pretty much. Then there was it Dom that kissed him? It might have been Dom that kissed him. And then in X and Y, there was an actual legitimate love story between him and the other chick because they have like a backstory where Ash went to some fucking school camp thing and she was there and they met back then and he like saved her from a whole heap of like Riedels.
Hold
which
on.
is funny.
Don't go not bringing up Misty. I refuse to believe the Misty thing never happened.
The Misty thing didn't. No, this isn't Misty. This is
no.
The one
I mean like Misty in general. Like I refuse to believe she does not count as one of them.
But she never kissed him. She liked him.
As far as we know.
Well, yeah. I mean, they used to share sleeping bags, so they might have got more than that.
Like as far as we know, she never kissed him.
But
like
he was leaving down an escalator at the end of X and Y, and this chick, I can't fucking remember her name. She fully grabbed him, pulled him off the escalator, and like fully like tongue down his throat, kissed him, and then
also honestly,
and
not
then
counting on-screen kisses.
Like, he like leaves, and he's just like,
not counting on-screen kisses, it was every single one of the Pokemon girls. I refuse to believe that they have not gotten with him.
Oh wow!
I mean,
think about it. Every single one of them has some. Like, there was literally an episode, if I remember correctly, where a lot of the Pokemon girls from throughout the generations, got together at one point, and started talking about him, all together, like as if they were like a gaggle of exes.
Yeah.
Like
he
they were all gossiping about him as like a lover.
Yeah, he's like
Kinda.
a harem. Yeah, he always has a harem. Harems are funny. Like I watched an anime. It's like Reincarnated Another World with my smartphone. This dude ends up with like
I recently rewatched that one.
Yeah, how many wives is it? It's like 12 or something. He ends up getting in it. Yeah.
That honestly,
he has so many women that want him, and he has to. He has to like share the load. And like each one is different. So like they have all the it's fucking weird. And then like every time he finds a new Babylon island, for him to register his DNA with the island's ground carer, he has to make out with them. Because they got to extract the DNA. And one of them turned around and said to him, "Oh, we can extract DNA in the other way, but I'm not too sure your virgin ass would appreciate it."
Oh my god!
See, one of the moments that I really liked that is all of their tests involve sexually harassing him.
Yeah,
in some way.
Yeah, because
and then there was one who just didn't, and she was like, "No, you should be good. If all of them approved of you, then why would I need to test you?" And then another one came along. It was the one. Got two of them at the same time.
Yeah.
Another one came along, and then she did a test on him, and it was like, "Oh, you thought you could get away from it?"
Because the person that created him, I forgot what her name was. She like has a device that can watch the future, so she's been watching this dude from in like 3,000 years ago, watching him just like get bullied and harassed into marrying all these princesses and women.
She thinks it's very funny.
She thinks it's funny. So she designed all these basically cyborgs to just sexually harass him. Because then she gets to watch it in the past.
Oh my god.
It was
like
very funny.
He doesn't like have a choice. I feel so sorry for him because he's actually a nice guy. Like he doesn't take advantage of any of these people. And he like just goes through life like he's really powerful because you know it's an isekai.
He's very sincere. He's doing the best he can.
He's doing the best he can. It's just all these people like what was that? The last princess towards the end of the season. He ends up rescuing, and then like she goes to his kingdom because he's a duke, and And then they're like, she's like, got a crush on him. Like, oh, you got a crush on him, do you? Like that sword princess one. And she's like,
yeah, like all of the other wives are like, guess
then
what?
marry
You're getting
him.
married again.
You're getting married again. And he's just like, wait, what? Another one?
It was like, I didn't know about this. And then it's like, sorry, bud. You're getting married. The wives, the council of wives have decided we're adding another.
And then to marry her, she had to verse her own grandfather.
He also married,
like, what?
That one, the first wife's little sister. He also married because she was going to get married off to someone else. And cousin, it was cousin, not
cousin. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So
regardless,
she
was going to get married off to someone else, and they were trying to figure out how to like solve that situation. And they're like, "Would you just marry her to solve the problem?" He was like, I think we could just solve the bigger problem. And then they solved the bigger problem. And then he's like, as a reward, you're marrying my daughter.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then he marries her anyways.
So she's like 11 as well. And like she tries really. So he's 16.
He's getting shoehorned into marrying anyone and everyone.
So
the moment they're like, yeah, I want.
And then you find out like, that it's all the work of the god of love. She's doing it. Like she's this, or like, so he's best friends with God because the reason why he got reincarnated because God killed him accidentally by just throwing some lightning. And so he felt bad. So reincarnates him in this world and it allows him to bring his smartphone and incorporates the smartphone in this magic world. Then the goddess of love like decided to take interest in him. So she's like,
goddess of love noticed him, was like,
she's like, and then now she's like in his house, living with him, pretending to be his sister.
Okay, that's not that last like, word you said is not the word I was expecting you to say.
No, she doesn't make any moves on it as far as I
doesn't. She just fucking
she's there claiming to be his sister while he's like, I need you to please go away. And she's like, no, it's funny here.
Yeah, she loves it. She's like, I want a holiday. I love all this love towards you. And then she would go and like tell his like past life backstory of how he grew up and shit, and like tell all the girls, talk about his parents, all that sort of stuff, and he's never mentioned his like previous life at all to them. So they're all like eating it up and like falling more and more in love, and she's just like, yes, give me all the power.
Oh my god,
it's funny as fuck.
So extremely funny.
It is.
And like, but like, honestly, a lot of harems unfortunately don't go that route of just being like, they don't. A lot of that makes me sad about a lot of harem animes is that they'll like set up the harem, and then they won't pull the trigger because it's like, oh, but if we choose only one, then someone's gonna get hurt. People who like that one are gonna get upset, and one of the characters is gonna get hurt, and yada yada yada. It's like. Then there's these handful of other ones out there, which is like
everyone gets a piece. Yeah, just everyone gets a piece.
Just choose all of them.
Just have it all.
And it's like, it's fiction. Who cares? Just choose all of them.
And in like feudal Japan, or even still to this day, Japan still has like multiple wives systems and stuff like that, where like people will marry off their children. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Arranged marriages is still a thing.
I don't know if multiple wives is still a thing now.
Yeah, they still do. It's
actually, I don't think multiple wives was a thing originally either. I thought it was one wife.
I'm pretty sure it was just 1-to-1.
Yeah, but they would have they'll have what do you call it? So you would have one main wife that you married, and then you would have concubines.
Okay, the concubines. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but still was a power play though.
It was though.
It was a power. It's always been a power play. Yeah.
Since you have brought up the arranged marriages thing, it is very unfortunate that nowadays only exists in Japan. Because like,
arranged marriages still exist everywhere, man.
Not here in the U.S. at least. We've never had a culture of it, so
yeah. But Indians that like people from India and that still do arranged marriages.
But like the way that I think about it is there's a lot of places where there is Japan does have a big problem with loneliness, but like they do have like somewhat of a solution of arranged marriages. It's no longer
Yeah.
it's no longer so much a required thing, but there is still the culture of a parent essentially assisting their child in matchmaking,
Yeah.
or by playing matchmaker. Here in the U.S. and probably in a lot of the Western world, that's not really a thing anymore.
Well,
So it's like if you're lonely, oh well, be alone.
So I don't like arranged marriages for the simple fact that to me it's a power play. It's like you don't have a choice in your life. Your parents choose your pathway, and
See, and
they could choose
why,
like completely wrong. I'm a person like I'd rather choose someone that I care about and actually have interest in.
That's why I kind of lean towards specifically Japan's method of doing it, because it's not so much like,
but it's only the rich that really do it. It's really only the rich that do it to keep the wealth in the family. But
even outside of the rich, there's still like
I suppose
some
like
level of it, and it's not so much like arranged marriage in the traditional sense of this is who you're marrying. We're telling you that you're marrying this person. That's it. It's more of like you essentially bring two families bring their kids together, and then they have interviews with each other in a sense. And figure out if they like each other and want to proceed with a marriage.
Yeah, that way is not so bad if they like. Because have you seen that anime? A Couple of Cuckoos. That's a good one. So it's actually a really heartwarming story. I love it,
but I don't.
You don't like it?
Dropped it because it was going in a direction that I didn't see ending well. Because
they did
had
the
girl that he
thing.
likes. They had the
sister.
The moment you start throwing a love triangle into the mix,
that pissed me off too.
Lost me.
Pissed me. I would rather dress up my darling over that, to be honest, because at least there's only two love interests.
I'm of the firm opinion that that love triangles doesn't add anything to the story. All it does is slows down the plot.
Yeah, it adds drama.
It creates a lot of friction.
Yeah.
I think that's.
It adds friction that doesn't really give you anything.
But it doesn't really help you learn anything.
The premise of A Couple of Cuckoos, for those watching, so this is an anime where basically a guy and a girl were born in a hospital in Japan, and as babies they were swapped. One family is wealthy and one family is not wealthy. But they own a shop, and they're not bad people. They make ends meet and whatnot. They struggle. So the son was born from the wealthy family, but grew up in the poor family, and the daughter was born from the poor family, was born in the wealthy family. These two end up finding out that later as they're older, so they're like 17 or something like that when they find out. So the families had organized to meet each other. Anyway, on his way to meeting him, he ends up coming across this chick that is on a bridge and it looks like she's going to jump. It turns out she's just taking a selfie because she's an Instagram model. And so they end up talking and whatnot, and then pretending to be boyfriend and girlfriend and whatnot for the day to make her father be jealous because she found out that she's got an arranged marriage coming up. Anyway, they end up going, fuck, we're late. And so he ends up running off to the meeting, and he ends up meeting his family and whatnot. And then they introduce their daughter, and it's her.
Yeah, that could have been so good because that is a really funny scenario.
Yeah.
If they just didn't add in the the love interest.
And the love interest makes no fucking sense. She is not interested in him. She made it very clear, and then all of a sudden when another girl comes on the scene, she's like, oh, I'm interested now.
No, I wouldn't say that she's not interested in him.
And then his sister's a bit weird as well, that she loves him.
If you think about the motivations, the sister is one thing, but I mean it's a Japan anime. It's going to have some incest character. I
don't get it. Well, it's not incest biologically, but it's still incest to me because it's family. You grew up with them,
But I don't really mind that in fiction. That's perfectly fine by me.
Yeah,
because it's fiction.
Yeah.
It's just adding that extra little flavor of taboo.
Yeah. Well, that's it, and it's all about that perviness.
It's meant to be it's meant to be like a forbidden love kind of thing. But anyways, the love interest I disagree about her motivations, and that's one of the things that makes me upset is that I like the love interest more than the main girl, simply because the main girl, it was just kind of like thrown together, and then it's like they forgot to continue with what was going on before, and now she just doesn't like him for some reason.
What was with the fucking story with the brother as well?
Yeah, like it was.
That was so weird. It doesn't make sense.
That whole dynamic between those two is weird, but the love interest, like the purple hair girl, I can't remember her name.
Hero.
Her motivations make sense. Like you said, it doesn't, but if you think about why why she was reluctant to be with him, it's not that when she said that she like had a fiance and all that stuff, that wasn't actually true. She was trying to scare him off because her fear is that she's going to inherit the shrine. That is a given. She doesn't want to put that burden on someone else by getting married, because once she gets married, now it's that person who's inheriting the shrine. Which is a huge financial burden. She didn't want to put that on anyone. So she wanted to make absolute certain that, if she is with someone, that they are, one, someone who can handle that situation, and two, someone who wants to or who is willing to handle that situation. Which is kind of why she was saying, if you want to be with me, you have to prove it, essentially. And the reason why she started getting more aggressive once she realized that there was another girl in the mix is because she realized there was another girl in the mix. So it was no longer like I could sit around and wait. It was oh wait, I have to make moves.
I liked it.
Which that scenario, I can get a love triangle progressing something, but we all know that in the end, it's not going to be her that wins.
No.
It's never her that wins, except in one show, which came out of left field with who won, and I didn't understand why. It still doesn't make sense. I think it's stupid. Is quintessential quintuplets. The one he chose at the end makes no sense. She was a background character for the entire show, and then he's just like, yeah, her. It's like, who?
That's funny.
Like, she's a supporting character as like the comic relief.
See, this is
throughout the entire show.
That's the reason why I like. I didn't want to get hurt, so I maxed out my defense.
That one was was funny.
That's so fun because there's no love interest. It's just this girl called Maple that just
too big on that one.
That just destroys everyone.
Love interest.
Yeah, so I like animes that don't like Hell's Paradise was awesome. Like I fucking
I
love
really liked Hell's Paradise, but it did still have that bit of romance into it that kept it going with like his wife back home who is trying so desperately to get back to.
Which turns out
the one guy who, spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen it, the guy with the glasses who gave his life for the other girl, and it came out that he loved her. So essentially, he sacrificed himself for the girl that he loved.
It wasn't like in your face though. It was just organic. That's why I liked it.
Yeah, but like then, at the same time, I do really like.
Also, Gummary's wife doesn't even exist.
No, she does.
She does?
Yeah.
I thought it was all fucking.
That is one thing that I will spoil for you and for anyone, simply because it's stupid that people are saying otherwise. She absolutely exists. She 100% exists. It was theorized early on that she might not, because it was supposed to be like a little bit of mystery of, does she exist?
Yeah.
But then people started taking that as gospel of she doesn't exist.
Well, he used his powers and then he lost his memory and lost memory of her and everything. So that's why it was kind of like she doesn't exist, because that's where I got up to.
Yeah, but no, she absolutely exists. At the very end, Pete finds her again.
Ah, that's good then.
She does exist.
Awesome. Because he's cool. Like he is so scary though when he gets mad. Like that scene where they put all the prisoners together to get them to like fight to the death, and no one touched him. Like everyone's
just
like
sitting there casually.
He was just sitting there casually, just chilling. No fucking guy would dare go near this guy. And then like the Lord was like, hey, no one's doing anything with him. You must fight. And it's like, this is a waste of my energy. I do not want to fight. And they're like, if you fight him and kill him, then you will get this and blah, 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 blah. And they're like, yeah, yeah. And he's like, are you sure you want to fight me? And they're like, yeah, we're going to fight you. And he's like, you really leaving me no choice? And they're like, yeah, yeah. So what does he do? Fucking brutally murders everyone. Like, violently.
Dude is
like,
an absolute badass.
With his hands cuffed,
I need to
too.
watch that.
With his hands
and I love that it
cuffed.
turns out that he's like, I absolutely love that it turns out that the entire time, his whole little special abilities was the exact same as what the
angels or whatever the fuck they called
whatever they were, what they were using. He just didn't realize it, and then once it came to light that that's what it was, he was just like, oh, okay. And then he started going full in and just demolished with it.
He fucked them up. And like, because he's scary, like so they had like this little tent thing that was like a wall that surrounded him, and he murdered them so violently and so aggressively, like he destroyed the tent around him and was like in the water, because it was on a beach, and it was like in the water just like ripping their throats out with his hands and mouth and like cutting him in half with his feet. And he wasn't even using his powers. Like he would be using like, I reckon like 1% of his abilities. And he was just
1% of my power.
Yeah, he's just like turning these guys into mincemeat. And then like the Lord's like, oh shit, this guy could kill everyone here. Like, we could all be killed by him. And then
they were like, this is a bad scene.
thing.
We're gonna go. Sorry, man.
And like, they have tried to kill this guy. So when you first meet him, he was on execution, and they burnt him alive. They tried to behead him. They tried to stab him. They tried to do everything. And then one of the executors, she was there to document him, to try and sort of scout him out as part of this eternal life sort of scouting mission. And as she's talking to him and whatnot, he finally decides, all right, I'll go with you. And then the Lord that was trying to execute him was like, no, you're not going anywhere. And he's like, so he looks at her and he's like, so you want to actually see my power? And she's like, yeah, sure. So what does he do? He just turns into fire and just eliminates like 20 plus people. And then as he's talking to her, he's just sitting on top of a mound of their corpses.
Yeah,
looking down, like he is so fucking badass. I love it. I love a protagonist that just is ruthless.
One thing I think is kind of unfortunate with that story is it's very clear that she's also falling in love with him.
Oh yeah, she is.
But it's not going to go anywhere because his wife exists.
No. But she will use him as inspiration to do better.
Yeah, like she will better herself, but at the same time, it's like, if his wife didn't actually exist, then, that could have been something.
It could have been something, yeah.
His wife exists. His wife is real. And honestly, I prefer the whole his wife thing, because, every time
his motives make
give
more
a
sense.
little more information about, like, his wife and how she's making him human and all that stuff, like, it's very endearing.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's a perfect example of my personal belief that adding romance to any story makes it better, because honestly, at the end of the day, one of the major things that drives any real story that drives any like intense story, is more than likely going to be romance, because like, there's personal drive of wanting to improve yourself and whatnot, but those stories tend to get dragged on for eons, because at the end of the day, self-improvement never really ends.
Yeah.
There is no end goal with self-improvement, because you just improve yourself.
Just keep getting
constantly.
better.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, romance not only will drive someone like to extreme ends, but it also has an end. Like, there is an end goal. A place where you could wrap up everything, tie it in a bow, ship it off, be like, that's the story.
Yeah.
Even if it's something as simple as a kiss. If you look at a lot of really highly rated specifically for specifically romance anime, like the whole story is romance. A lot of the most highly rated, best ones end with a kiss or something like that. Like there is a defining, this is the end. And like we know it's not the true end of their story, but it's the end of the story that we wanted to see.
Yeah.
Which was the will they, won't they. Which I think is also something that tends to get dragged out a little too long. But it's unlike a love triangle where all it does is slow things down and add unnecessary drama. A will they, won't they can drag things out, but it actually adds something.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna have to basically come to a close with this podcast. We've gone a little bit over, but that's okay. It was a lot of fun. A lot of interesting stuff has been said and whatnot. I found a channel that we're going to raid into. I've never heard of him before, but he's playing Starfield. His name Blunt Nate.
I'm probably going to be playing Starfield after.
Oh, mate. Have you got... Did you buy it, did you?
I did, but I ended up realizing that I bought Standard, and then I was like, oh, shit, no, I bought the wrong one, because I wanted to play it now. So I refunded it, and I was like, oh, but am I going to have the money left over to get the other one? Because, you know, Steam rarely ever just gives you your money back fast.
Yeah, that is true.
And I was like, oh, am I even going to be able to? So once I saw the refund, like, went through, or not went through, but, like, once it was approved, I went to Starfield, and I was like, is this going to work? And I went to buy it, and it worked, and I was like, oh, thank God.
Well, anyways, I'm gonna. So, Spliffy, you gonna say something?
No, that's all right. I was just gonna say I'm gonna wait until see some gameplay of it before I buy it because I'm not even sure it's gonna run on my current computer.
I've got to buy it
because
Pass.
I saw gameplay of it.
Yeah, I've got it on Game Pass, so it will release soonish, and then I'll get to play it. I'm not gonna buy it because I get it for free on Game Pass. So,
see, I'm usually very against pre-ordering games, but mostly because if you pre-order a game, you're essentially signing away your money to an unknown product.
Yeah, but so far it looks promising. I haven't seen any bugs or anything like that, so that's good. It's very rare.
I've seen some bugs, but the bugs that I had seen,
they're not game breaking.
Yeah. They were just like little weird, little open world weirdness that pretty much any open world game is likely going to have.
Yeah.
And like it wasn't like a typical Bethesda of the bugs are features kind of scenario.
Right.
The gameplay looked really good. The guy who I saw who was talking about it was essentially describing and he was explicitly stating like he didn't see anything that would make it not worth it. And even went as far as to say one of the things that people are worried about is potential lack of content.
Yeah.
And he was outright stating, you'll have no issues here. It has an insane amount of content.
Yeah.
He only played like the first, like he didn't play deep enough to know if the story falls off or anything like that. But he played enough into it, like about an hour or so into it to know for a fact that it has more than enough content. He was running into so many things to do that he didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Which is always a good problem to have
it is.
There being so many options that you don't know what to choose.
Yeah. Well, anyways, like I said, I've got to end it. So that's what I'm going to do. Before we don't end it, we will see you
definitely have
next...
to bring you back for another episode.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, I'm always down. I have basically nothing going on in my life for the most part.
But yeah, we'll be back Wednesday for our midweek fucking craze fest. That means Spliffy kind of acts drunk when we're overtired. But so yeah, if you tune into those podcasts, Cal, we are really all over the place. It's a lot of fucking it's fun.
There is no limit to being over the place,
and we say anything and everything. So
really the classic.
I hope everybody that is listening enjoys this. This will be uploaded to YouTube maybe today. I'll see how I go when it comes to editing, because the computer's been having issues and it screams at me like a bitch every time I edit. So I hope you have a good day and evening, depending where you are. We're going to raid out to Blunt Nate, who's playing Starfield, and I hope you enjoyed it. And thank you again. And please hit that follow button. Your support means a lot to us. We really like the fact that our community is slowly growing, and it's great. So, yeah, we'll catch you all next time. And thank you, Kelt. All your deets will be as well in the description on YouTube when it's uploaded as well. So if you could just DM me that. Yeah, I'll put it up there for you. All right, thank you, everybody. And catch you next time.
See you later.
Bye.